Morning YouTubers, this is RC here with RC67. It's been a few weeks since I've put a video together. I'm having a lot of stuff going on here in the last few weeks here. But anyway, what I'm going to talk about today is kind of a little timeline of some of the cars that I have in my collection from when I was a kid. Some of them survived but needed restoration, so I did some restoration on them. I even did a little bit of custom on a few of them. For various reasons, and I'll talk about that when I get to those cars. And then there's a handful of cars I have that did survive my childhood, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And then there's a couple cars that I wanted to add into my collection, but I can't afford some of the cars, the prices that they're asking for those cars on eBay or Etsy or some of the other places. So I've got what I would call them reprints or reproduction cars that came out probably early 2000s, like from 2005 to 2007 or 8. And these were reprinted or reproduction Redline cars, but because they're affordable for me, I went ahead and bought some of those to kind of add back into my collection to be able to reminisce about, you know, having cars what I played with when I was a kid. But I'll kind of start out with, in 1968, you know, you had the Sweet 16, which was your Beatnik Bandit, Custom Cuda, Custom Camaro, Custom Corvette, the Cougar, the Eldorado, the Firebird, the Fleetside, the Mustang, the Custom T-Bird, the Volkswagen, the Diora, the Ford J-Car, the Hot Heat, Python, and the Silhouette. So those are the original 16, which came out in 1968. I don't have any of those cars, one, because I had just been born around that time frame. And so none of those cars are in my collection as of this day. In 1970, these are all Redline, by the way. In 1970, they had another release. There's a few new additions. Which was the Red Baron, which I do have in my collection there. You can see up on the left. This was a car that I customized and restored, not to original, but to pretty close to original. So what I did is obviously I repainted it and I polished the helmet and polished up the engine. I got the red paint as close to the original red paint as I could get and then polished the base. The only thing I didn't do was put on original Redline tires. I put on the rubber Redline tires from the Redline shop. I just wanted a little bit more customization of the car. Besides, truth be told, the wheel set with the Redline rubber tires were actually cheaper than the original Redline reproduction tires that were hard plastic. So that is from 1970. So that was probably one I actually probably got it when I was probably 5 or 6, and I know they did another run of the Red Baron right around 74, I believe, and that's probably about when that car was put into my collection. There were some other cars added to that time frame, which I don't have any of them, but they had the Nomad. I've got a couple Nomads, but they're later production cars. These are all still Redline era cars, which was from 1968 to about 1977-ish. Some other cars that came out of that time frame was the Warpath, as well as the Backwoods Bomb. So this here is the Warpath. And again, this was a car that did not survive my childhood very well. It was beat to crap, so to speak. It had no wheels on it. The paint had been pretty much scraped and scuffed off, and I think I even repainted it as a kid, so it was in pretty bad shape. The original color was white with the Star and Stripe tampoing. I was not able to find any decals anywhere online to reproduce the tampoing or the decaling for the car to paint it back to its original color. So I decided to do a little customization with it, and I painted it in what's called a purple fog. So it has a color shifter effect to it when it gets into the light. It really doesn't do it justice in this light. But anyway, I like the way it came out. But again, it was for me. And then again, of course, I put on the Redline rubber tires to it. And then, of course, the McLaren, same thing. It was a Redline production car, I believe, as well. It was completely trashed as well. The lid on the back did survive, which I was very surprised. And then, of course, I just repainted it in this, what they call pearl yellow. And then I put Redline Real Rider rubber tires on it, re-chromed out the engine, and then there we go. So that's one that kind of survived, but needed a lot of love and restoration in the collection of cars that I've got. This one here was produced in 1975 and released, but I actually have the Blackwall edition, which came out later. I think it was 78, 79 time frame. Actually did survive my childhood and is in very, very good shape. So that's a good one there. Some of the other cars that came out in the early 70s was the Funny Money dragster car right here. It's kind of fragile because the base of it and the lid of it don't click in very well. And that was one I had to do a lot of restoration on. But it came out pretty good, and it looks good as a showpiece. That's all it was. Another one that I restored as well was this dragster here. This was the Don Perdome funny car dragster, which I believe this came out in the early 70s, around 73 or 74. It was also a Redline edition. This one here had been completely trashed and destroyed as from my childhood. So I had to fabricate a body jack stand on it. The paint I matched exactly to it. I got the decals off of eBay, and then of course instead of putting on the Redline hard plastic wheels, I put on the Redline rubber tires. But again, for me, it's a display piece, so it's a nice custom piece I got into the collection, and I love the way it turned out. Some of the other cars that came into my collection, which were more in the late 70s, which was after the Redline series. This was in the 78, 79 to 1980 time frame. The T-Bird car, a lot of people know it as the Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am. And this was released, I believe, in 1978. This was the Blackwall edition because it has no more Redline wheels on it, but did survive my childhood and is in pretty good shape. Another car that survived my childhood is this 57 T-Bird. It's in white. I actually have two of them. One of them I was going to do a restoration on, and when I got it, it was actually in pretty good shape, so I decided to leave it in original. But this is a Blackwall one as well. This car came in a racetrack set, which was a loop-to-loop, and then of course it would jump and then land on the other end of the track. I still have the track and I still have the box. Not in great shape, but I still have the box. So this piece actually did survive, which is surprising, but it did survive. So that is that one. Another one was a Corvette Stingray. This was released in 1974, I believe, because it was still a Redline. This is a Blackwall, and I do have a Redline one that came out in 75. It's put away in my collection, wrapped up in some bubble wrap. So that one was put away. But there was a Blackwall release, which was like 78 or 79. And that was about when this one came out. But this one, you can tell, has been heavily played with. It's pretty scuffed up, but I'm going to leave it in its condition because it's got a metal base and I don't want to mess up the integrity of it because it still is in pretty good shape considering. And then finally, one of the other ones that did survive is the Spoil Sport. This one was released again late 70s, early 80s. It has had a lot of love on it. The back spoiler is bent and it is very, very scraped up. I have not been able to locate any tampoing on for this car if I were to do a restoration on it. The back piece actually is a little loose on the tail here, so the frame of the car is a little loose. That would need a little bit of adjusting there. But the wheels are in good shape. The axle is straight and it still rolls really well. The glass is in pretty bad condition, so I haven't decided if I'm going to restore this one or just leave it as an original. So that's that one there. So, but then a couple other cars I've got. I've showcased this one with you guys before. This is the Heavy Chevy. This is that reproduction car I was telling you about. The Heavy Chevy was released, I want to say, in the early mid-70s as a Redline series in their spoiler edition. It's got the blown engine. You got your 4 Redline wheels and, of course, then a metal base. So that was one of the ones that came out in the early 70s as well, Redline. But for me, I had to buy a reproduction one or a replica just because of the cost of the cars today. And then finally, the Nitty Gritty Kitty. This is not an original. Some of the originals have a white stripe down the hood and the top of the car, and then there's a number on the door. This one does not, it just has a pinstripe down the side. But nonetheless, a nice addition to my collection. Again, these are just reminiscent of cars that I had from when I was a kid, and that was the whole goal of kind of putting some of these pieces back together, was to kind of put a timeline of cars I used to play with as a kid and just kind of show them off, and friends and family can kind of take a look at what I have. So, but anyway, I hope you guys like what you saw. If you guys would, please like, comment, or subscribe. That'd be great. I appreciate that. I hope everyone's having a great day. This is RC with RC67 signing off. Take care.